still people, and they're still God's children. So I try to remind myself that, like, this is God's daughter. I might not like her or like the things that she's doing, but this is still his daughter. So if I can work with you, I'm gonna work with you. But if I can't, I'm okay with turning away your money, you know,
right?
Because I'm not gonna let you just talk to me any kind of way or do anything to me. We're gonna get through the service, and then after that, we just not gonna. We're not good for each other. So I think God is pleased with that. I think that he only would be upset with me if I was to treat them really bad and don't do my business in integrity. I think that's when he would have an issue with me. But yeah, so that was good. So my next question is, how do you hear from God? What does it look like for you to hear from God? Like, some people say they hear him audibly a lot. Some people hear him just with the knowing. Some people hear from him through the word only. Some people hear from him through signs, like through nature. What does it look like for you when you know? When I know that was God. I know I heard his voice. What does that look like for you?
So, God has always been able to talk to me any kind of way. The only way he does not talk to me is audibly, because it would probably give me a heart attack. Yeah, so I could be looking in the mirror and I'll start thinking about something. And now that I understand the character of God by reading, now I know who's talking, right? I could be having a conversation with somebody and they'll say something and I'm like, that struck a nerve. Like, you know, or he just talks to me any way, whether it's through the word, through my train of thought, or through somebody else, through a song. But I now hear it clearer, and I can identify who's talking to me. Even through dreams, I can identify who's talking to me, because I'm now challenging the spirit, challenging the character, the fruit behind the spirit. Yeah.
So would you say that, I'm just sitting here thinking about what you're saying, because it's really good, because I remember I struggled a lot with that in the beginning of my walk with him. Like, I would say, like, recently, within like the last probably 2 years or so, I struggled with that. But I always would look up videos and be like, how to hear from God, how to hear from God. And then I was just like, one day God really spoke to me. I've heard him audibly one time, but he really spoke to me and just was like, if you read my word, then you will know when it's me. And so that's how I started hearing more clearly from him. Like, I read the word, and that's the only way that I really, really be knowing how to distinguish his voice and my voice. I mean, his voice in between Satan's voice, because, you know, he's slick.
Right.
But the question I was going to ask you after we talked about that is, do you feel like it comes with time? Like, is it like something you got to train yourself on? Or do you think you've just been hearing from him like your whole entire life?
I literally feel like I've been hearing from God my whole entire life. Have you ever been doing something you're like, oh, that's deja vu, I've seen that before. Right? So now I noticed, I would never forget this one day. I was maybe like 13, 14, and I had bunk beds at the time. And I had a dream, it was a random behind dream. I had a dream that I had a dream that a jar of coconut oil was tilted over on top of my bed.
Wow.
And I was like, that's random as a mug. Let me go ahead about my day. So 2 days later, it kept coming up. Like, let me really check and see if it's something tilted over my bed. You know, I was like, no, that was just a dream. Put it off. 2 days go by. And I'm like, this keeps coming up into my head. Let me check and see if something is tilted over on my bed. I don't even own a jar of coconut oil.
Wow.
But I looked on top of my bed, and sure enough, it was a coconut oil jar was tilted over on my bed. And I totally forgot about that. And just thought about it like 2 weeks ago. Wow. And God was showing me, you know, you've always heard from me. Because I tell you, I be going through life now, and I just be like, God, why you not speaking to me?
Yeah.
Or I'll be like, I don't hear from the Lord.
Yep.
Right? And God continues to show me, you've always heard.
Always.
Like, stop playing. Even when you weren't thinking about me, I was always thinking about you, always talking to you. So
good. That's so good.
That's a great example of do you need to does it take getting familiar with it? Or I mean, as a kid, when I saw coconut oil spilled over, I knew, I was like, something, okay, that came from God, because ain't no way in the world.
Like, that's not just something that just happens. Some things are just not a coincidence. You're like, wait a minute, that has to be God.
Right.
But I was sitting here laughing because I remember that same kind of stuff happening to me, but I was like probably like maybe 11 or something, 11 or 12, and it wasn't no dream like that, but I would always do stuff wrong. I was telling you the other day how bad I was, but I would like literally hear God say stuff to me in the midst of those bad moments. And I was listening to Joyce Myers like recently, and she was saying how like God used to speak to her like when she would put something in the wrong place, He would tell her to put it back. That's been happening to me since I was a little girl, and so I never realized that was God back then. But like if I put if I'm in a grocery store and I pick up something and I put it in the wrong spot, God would tell me to put it back where I got it from. And like my family, sometimes, you know, when I'm with them, they just put stuff anywhere, and then I be like putting it back where it's supposed to go. They just be looking at me like, okay, this girl crazy. But no, it's like God literally won't let me rest until I do exactly what He's been telling me to do all day. So that's crazy.
I think when you're, I don't want to use the word immature, but when you are childlike, physically and mentally, it's easier to just understand that, okay, that was God talking. But I feel like that whole practice thing, or that repetitive having to get your mind together to fathom that God is talking to you thing, is for those who really are struggling, and really rejecting like that spontaneousness about God. Because when you think about it, as a kid, you hear something and you're just like, okay, that's what we're doing. You know, but I don't know why it seems like for me it's so hard for me to believe. I don't know why, you know, and I think it's because I'm steady still trying to, you know, take control, right? Yeah, go ahead. What you
I was just gonna say, I just think it's no different than Peter. Remember, how he had to walk. Jesus was like, "Come in, come walk on the water." He like, "Nah, I ain't really about to walk on this water with you." And he was around him all that time. Yeah. So it's similar to that. It's like we can have all the training or whatever you want to call it in the world, or you can be really, really closely tied to God in the world, but there still will come up moments, you know, and I want the listeners to know that, because I don't want y'all to be like I am sometimes, too hard on yourself, because we all have moments where sometimes we kind of lose it, and we be like, wait a minute, was that God or was it not God? Or you know what I mean? So Peter had unbelief, and just like the disciples, they had a lot of unbelief. Sometimes they would question Jesus like, well, why? You know, how many times we gotta forgive somebody or whatever, like stuff like that. I just think that it's because we still live in a world. I think that's what I equate it to. It's because we still live in a noisy world where, not that because you're not even on social media as much as most people your age at all, but you're still around people, you're still listening to conversations and stuff like that. So sometimes, you know, if you don't really be careful, you can mix up the real wisdom or the counsel with the wise counsel. It's two different kinds of counsels. Right. So
yeah, that's what I was just thinking. I was just thinking, I believe the Holy Spirit was, you know, clarifying. Yeah. Like whenever unbelief is present, that means opposition is present. Yep. And so you literally have to try the Spirit by the Spirit. Exactly. You know, because by you being in the grocery store, putting stuff back after, you know, people putting it out of place, or, you know, you putting it out of place, that's an opportunity for you to challenge the Spirit. Yep. You know, God likes order and decency. Yes, He's very considerate. Yep. Satan is not. He's like, no, be selfish. He like, just leave it there. You can leave it right there. Put that right there. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's true. You know, so yeah. Yeah. So to the next question, what advice would you give to someone who is trying to build their relationship with God? Like, what would be one of the things that you could think of that they should start doing, like immediately, like even if they just feel like they have done so many wrong things in the world, like they just feel like, oh, I'm just the biggest sinner in the world, like, but I want a relationship with God. What would you tell a person like that to start right from where they are? I would say be honest. Yep. It wasn't until I was honest with God, and I'm gonna share something. It's not the best it's not the most pleasing thing to hear. But from the time I was like in 3rd grade to about 16, 17, I some way, somehow thought it was a great idea to masturbate every day. Yeah. Right? And I will always make excuses. Yeah. Okay, well, this is going to help me keep my virginity, right? Yeah. Or, this is what helps me go to sleep at night. And I kept kind of like hiding it in a sense. When I would go to pray, I would say, okay, well, God, I do stuff that I know you don't approve of. Right. But it wasn't until I was just like, okay, God, you see me. I know you see me. I can't hide this from you no more. Exactly. You know what I'm doing. Yep. Show me if this is really something you're not pleased with. I had to get to a place where I was like, God, I don't think that you can, help me sleep at night. Yeah. I don't think that you can help me, fulfill the void that I'm using this to fulfill. Like, I don't think that you can do this. And by me making that known, it was me exposing my heart. It was me providing my heart to be circumcised. And God was showing me, like, I can do this, I can do that. And yes, I don't like this. So it made everything so much more easier for me to navigate with my problems, because now I'm not trying to hide anything. Now I'm not being indirect, but God is able to show me specifically what I just prayed about. And there's sometimes I would find my words in scripture, and that's how he would talk to me. So
that's good. That's real good. I like it. I don't even have anything to add with that, because I just think it's real, real good. Because if I had to add anything, I would just say that if a person is in that position, to just start where you are. Just start praying. Just start praying, and like Lauren said, be honest, but also just tell them. Just be like, God, I'm messed up. I'm a messed up person. I have not been the greatest person to you. I have not spent any time with you, and I'm sorry. I repent, and I want to, start this relationship with you. And God is so generous. He's so thoughtful, so forgiving, and so loving that he'll never turn his back on you. Like, never. He's going to be right there, excited, just like that story about the prodigal son. When he came back, he wanted to be out there in the world having a good time, partying up with the prostitutes and drinking and probably smoking and doing whatever else he was doing. And God threw him a party. They threw him a party when he came back. So I just feel like that's the same way God looks at us. It's just like sometimes we gotta stop taking God, not to say don't take him serious, but like allow him to be God, like allow him to be your friend, because he's fun. He's not this. I think some people, because I know I used to be like this when I was a teenager. I used to be like so afraid of God. Now, you are supposed to fear God, but there's a certain kind of fear. Like, you're not supposed to fear him so much to the point where you don't even want to talk to him. Right. That's the devil. That's the devil telling you that. Like, don't talk to God. He's going to get you. Like, he this big bad creature, like, that's just going to eat you up for doing something wrong. Like, he clearly forgives us, and he loves us so much, and this is all he wants is for us to come back to him when we've done wrong. Just like you would your earthly father, if you have your earthly father in your life. Because I understand that, some people don't have their earthly fathers, and they don't really know how to have a relationship with a dad-like figure. But yeah, with God, he's really, really cool. Like, he's funny. Like, the way I talk to him, and the way I'm sure Lauren talked to him, he'd probably be up there laughing. I can only imagine, because I'm real honest with him. Like, sometimes too honest.
And, we live in a day and age where people are starting to view good as bad and bad as good. Yeah. So even if you're an unbeliever and you got some questions, if you're an unbeliever, it wouldn't even really make some sense to be like, oh, God, I've heard this, that, and you wouldn't even really talk to somebody that you don't believe in. But that's what I did. I remember reading the word, right? And I wasn't reading it with the intention for God to speak to me. But I would read something, I would never forget. I was reading something, and I was like, I don't believe that. I was like, I don't believe that. And I don't know how. It just seemed like I kept reading, and it started making sense. He was showing me, well, this is why I said this back there. So with even questions like that, like, is God, no, he's not offended.
No,
I don't know. I think it's because we do compare God to our earthly peers and family members and even parents. Like, we think God gonna get offended. He's not offended by you being like, I don't believe you.